Well, who could have expected this? I have been very vocal about my opinions on the live-action Disney remakes. The majority of them just don't impress me. I didn't even bother with the most recent one, Peter Pan and Wendy. But I have enjoyed some like Cinderella or even Beauty and the Beast. But the majority have seemed to almost spit in the face of what the original was, whether that be the concept of the original or even the core of the original story. Growing up, my favorite Disney movies I constantly watched over and over and over again. Pinocchio, Hercules, Beauty and the Beast, The Little Mermaid. So when Pinocchio's live-action remake came out and was...
Chad Log? I've got it. Chris Pine.
For lack of better terms, pathetic, all of my excitement for The Little Mermaid that was coming out just died with it. But this year I actually joined a really cool membership program called AMC A-Stubs. Basically, you pay $20 a month and you're able to see up to 3 movies a week for free. So I decided last week, why not give The Little Mermaid a chance? It seemed like for the majority of it was getting mixed reviews. Some calling it good, some calling it the worst thing ever. So, who knows, it could have been good or bad in my opinion. I've seen it twice now. Both times I just had this stupid smile on my face the whole time. I loved this movie. Now, it's not a perfect movie, but it is one of their best live-action interpretations in my opinion. This is not a Pinocchio or a Maleficent or a Dumbo, where they trample on what the original was, nor is it a boring shot-for-shot remake like The Lion King was. For me, I would place this movie slightly below Beauty and the Beast, but slightly above Cinderella. It gets a lot right in my opinion. But to start with, let's get the bad out of the way in my opinion. I think the part of the movie from when Ursula turns into her alternate human self Vanessa to her dying was very poorly implemented. It felt so out of left field from what the movie was setting up. It almost felt like a completely different movie, which is weird to say. There was also this massive drop-off in CGI that you just could tell. It went from having this Lion King-like quality to all of a sudden a Disney Plus production. There's just no way to really describe that. There was also this terrible song that Scuttle sings in it. I don't know how this got past songwriters and song mixers and audio people and the directors and the people and the heads in Disney. How did this get past them?
I'll be like, why would I drop that scuttlebutt? Okay, now huddle up, buttercup, from the women who washed all the clothes.
They took a look at that and said, yeah, this is good. While there's so much of this movie that is built up very slowly in my opinion, and I like that, it felt like just the part when Ursula becomes a human and to her dying was done so quickly. If I had to guess, probably that portion of the movie was only 15 minutes in length. And this is what keeps the movie from being the best live-action remake in my opinion. If they had nailed this 15 minutes or even cut out that Scuttle song, I would have been singing this movie its praises. I would have been able to say this is the best live-action remake that Disney's ever put out. But thankfully, once Ursula does die, the movie's CGI quality jumps up again, as well as its storytelling. I thought they stuck the landing perfectly. I don't know what it is, just that 15 minutes from when Ursula becomes a human to her dying is done terribly. It's like a different director came in all of a sudden and started changing up the project. But that's all that I disliked about this movie. I thought that the way that they remade the old scenes that were pretty much shot-for-shot remakes of what the original was handled very well. It wasn't done in a boring way like The Lion King was. And even the new scenes, I felt, didn't feel tacked on or where all of a sudden the director wanted to come in and do his own version of what The Little Mermaid was. It just added a lot to the story, in my opinion. It didn't feel forced. For instance, one thing that I really enjoy about this is that there's a slow build-up to Ariel and Eric's relationship throughout the entire movie. About half of the movie is this. And honestly, I think this goes into my point about the actors. Halle Bailey is adorable as Ariel. I thought she did a fine job, and honestly, she shone the brightest when she was turned into a human. Because at that point, that's when you had to play Ariel without a voice. She did great with her facial expressions and how she was excited over every little possible detail. I think you needed an actor that really nailed this part of the movie, because in the original, Ariel is a very expressive cartoon character. So I think those moments that transferred from the cartoon to the live action worked the best. When she sings too, it's very beautiful. While her rendition of Part of Your World felt weird the first time I watched it, the second time I absolutely loved it. It's pitched up just slightly. So that's what threw me off the first time.
Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat?
Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat?
But I did ended up liking it the second time through. I also like this other song that she sings in the middle of it, where it's all in her head. I think it's a cool idea to have some of her emotions portrayed this way. Prince Eric is played by a nobody, Jonah Hauer-King. I thought he did actually a pretty nice job. I like that they changed up his character a little bit more, where he's drawn to the sea now, while Ariel is drawn to the land. There's a nice tug and pull feel to that dynamic there. I think that also the relationship feels believable like in the original. It was nice to see a slow build-up of it throughout here. Probably my favorite two scenes are when Ariel and Eric are interacting the most. The first one is when Eric is showing off Ariel his collection of trinkets and sorts, and they're just bonding over maps. Also the next day, once Eric is showing Ariel around the island, she gets lost in this market and she's just exploring the market of all these new things that are new to the human world to her. Probably one of the most surprising performances out of this entire movie that I hear nobody talking about is Grimsby. In the original, he's played as one of the more funny characters. But in this one, he's played pretty straight with a few laughs throughout. I also like here that you get to see how much Grimsby really cares for Eric here. He doesn't seem like a burden to Eric like the original did. I don't know, I really liked how they portrayed Grimsby here and how he was played. I had no idea that out of all the people that could have played Ursula, it was Melissa McCarthy. I was shocked at how well she played Ursula. Her voice sounded exactly like the original at times. Melissa portrayed the voice exactly like the original, where her voice would flow up and it would flow down, just like in the original. Her rendition of Poor Unfortunate Soul, too, was actually really good in my opinion.
Poor unfortunate souls.
Unfortunate souls.
Let's talk about the CGI though for a minute. Usually in movies, when you're trying to portray someone underwater, it's never really looked good in my opinion. Usually the two movies that I think of are Aquaman and Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Those two movies, while the graphics you could argue are good, they just looked off in my opinion and unusual. But here, I thought Disney actually nailed the look of what it would be like to live underwater. First of all, I think they did the best thing, which was not to make it realistic. For instance, the world is very colorful and full of life, especially during the under the sea moment. I'm saddened that the animals didn't play instruments. But I actually like what they did here. They had it where the animals could make those musical instrument noises through their own noises that the animals would make themselves. I don't know, I thought Under the Sea was handled with a lot of care, and it just had me grinning from ear to ear the whole entire time. Listen, I'm all for Disney to come back and do some original ideas and to stop rehashing the same thing and to keep doing these live-action remakes and all these sequels to all their legacy titles. Overall, it just felt like they cared about this movie, and they wanted to do the original film justice. There was just a few of those choices that I thought were questionable. Overall, I had a really good time with The Little Mermaid. This is not a Maleficent or a Dumbo or a Pinocchio where they just take everything and they're like, forget it, let's make our own interpretation of the story. I thought The Little Mermaid was a wonderful retelling of Disney's classic. Trust me, when I say I'm the one who could have disliked this the most. This could have easily turned into Pinocchio for me. I mean, even when I was little, I met Ariel and all the other Disney princesses because I loved them so much. I even got a kiss from Ariel. Is that too embarrassing to put on the internet?